Picture this. The car makes a noise you do not like, rent is due next week, and your boss just hinted at cutbacks. If you have no cash buffer, your brain shifts into survival mode. Every decision gets heavy. Now imagine the same week with $10,000 set aside. You feel different, you think clearer, you negotiate from strength. That is the switch I want to unpack. The first $10,000 saved is more than a number. It is a line in the sand between reacting and directing. Before it, the financial system feels unforgiving. After it, you have options and time. I speak as a guide who likes models, not as a superhero. The goal is calm, practical moves that compound. If you like clean breakdowns and evidence over hype, tap like and subscribe, and drop a comment with the number you are working toward. We learn faster as a group when we share targets and tactics. Let us define the real problem. Most households run without shock absorbers. One surprise bill pushes them into high-interest debt, and that debt taxes the future. The number is not magic by itself. The power comes from what it allows: a runway for better choices, a pause to think, and a launch pad for growth. I will show how that plays out in your day-to-day flow and your long-term wealth. We will keep it plain language. We will use round numbers. And we will focus on mechanisms you can execute this week. You will hear me say this often: safety first, then growth. With $10,000 saved, that phrase stops sounding like a slogan and starts becoming a system you can trust. Let us be precise about what $10,000 does. It creates time. If your monthly expenses are $3,000, then $10,000 is a little more than 3 months of runway. If your expenses are $2,000, it is 5 months. Runway is the number of months you can keep your life funded without new income. That number changes your risk calculus. An emergency fund is money reserved for unknown but inevitable events: job loss, car repairs, medical bills. It lives in cash in a high-yield savings account, not in the market. High yield simply means a savings account with a competitive annual percentage yield, often several times a traditional bank rate. The point is fast access and principal safety. Why is $10,000 the milestone so many people feel? It is where the buffer starts to feel real. Smaller savings can help, but they do not stretch far enough to prevent debt during a medium-sized shock. With $10,000, you can handle a $200 deductible, replace 4 tires, cover a week off work, and still be standing. You also buy negotiating leverage. Cash lets you pause, compare, and say no. You are no longer forced into the first option with fine print and fees. And you buy mental bandwidth. Anxiety drops when your bills are not hunting you. When anxiety drops, decision quality improves. That is not a motivational quote. It is simply how humans work under stress. The goal then is not to worship the number. The goal is to reach a threshold where your day-to-day finances stop wobbling. Hit this once, and your habits and identity begin to shift. You start to see money as a tool that buys time, not just a thing that disappears each month. If the case is so strong, why do most people struggle to get there? The frictions are both mechanical and psychological. Present bias pushes us to value today more than tomorrow, so we rationalize small daily upgrades that erase the month. Loss aversion makes us fear volatility, so we avoid learning investment basics and leave everything in low return cash, or worse, we delay saving altogether. Then there are structural traps. High-interest credit cards can turn a $600 surprise into a $900 problem by the time it is paid. An annual percentage rate, or APR, near 20 means the debt roughly doubles every 4 years if left untouched. Subscription creep hides in autopay. $9 here and $14 there becomes $100 a month of drift. And there is the myth that you need to earn more first. Higher income helps, but without a plan, spending rises to match it. That is lifestyle creep. The system also overwhelms with jargon. People freeze when they cannot tell the difference between a brokerage account and an IRA, or a deductible and an out-of-pocket max. Complexity becomes an excuse to wait. Inflation adds another layer. Prices move, so a fixed dollar goal can feel slippery. That can make the goal feel pointless if you do not anchor it to your expenses. The fix is not to power through on willpower. The fix is to reduce friction with a simple, repeatable cash flow design and a rule that tells you when to switch from defense to offense. When the rule is clear, small setbacks no longer derail the plan. Here is the mechanism that changes the game. I call it safety, then growth. First, design autopilot. Pay yourself first by moving money the day after payday into a named savings account. Naming matters. Call it emergency fund, not miscellaneous. Friction works both ways. A small barrier on spending and a small runway for saving tilt the odds in your favor. Start with a quick buffer, often $1,000, to stop the immediate fires. While you do that, attack any credit card debt with APR above the expected return of investing. A simple rule of thumb is this: if your card charges above 10 to 12%, prioritize knocking it down. The math is relentless there. Once the quick buffer is in place and the high APRs are under control, push to $10,000 in cash. This sits in a high-yield savings account, FDIC or NCUA insured where applicable, which means your deposits are protected up to legal limits. The switch happens after the $10,000 threshold. At that point, keep topping cash only until you reach your personal emergency target, usually 3 to 6 months of expenses, and redirect every extra dollar to growth. Growth means investing in broad, low-cost index funds through a retirement account or a taxable brokerage. Definition time. A low-cost index fund is a diversified basket that tracks a market like the S&P 500 for a tiny annual fee. The fee is called an expense ratio. Lower is better. The key is this sequence. You do not skip steps and you do not stall after the milestone. The plan removes guesswork and that makes it stick. Once the cash is set, your choices change. Let me give you a clean example. Take someone earning $4,000 after tax each month with fixed expenses of $2,800. Before the $10,000, a $2,200 break job goes on a card at 20% APR. Minimum payments at, say, $120 a month would stretch for a year and cost around $100 to $150 in interest, depending on how fast you pay. The total friction is not just dollars. It is a year of a new bill and a lower credit score from higher utilization. After the $10,000, the same repair is an invoice, not a crisis. You pull from savings, rebuild the fund over the next few months, and move on. You also negotiate better. Landlords prefer tenants with reserves. Auto dealers treat cash-ready buyers differently. Even your job options widen. A runway lets you leave a bad fit and take the time to land a better one. Health costs also become less scary. If your plan has a $2,000 deductible, you can cover it. That reduces the risk of delaying care. The daily feel is lighter. When every small problem is not a 5-alarm fire, you make fewer rushed choices. More of your decisions come from plans, not from panic. And there is an identity shift. You begin to think like a builder. Builders track, adjust, and extend their runway as their life changes. That identity pays dividends for decades because it pushes you to keep upgrading your system instead of waiting for perfect conditions. Let us turn the milestone into a structure you can run. The full $10,000 belongs in liquid cash, not the market. A high-yield savings account is the standard home because it pays interest while keeping your principal safe and available. Liquidity is the ability to get your cash fast without penalties. If you have a health plan with an HSA, a health savings account, consider using it for qualified medical costs. An HSA has a triple tax advantage when used for health expenses, but your emergency fund should not depend on market conditions, so keep core medical cash accessible. I like a labeled setup. One account holds the emergency fund, left untouched except for real emergencies. A separate checking account runs bills and spending. If you want extra clarity, create a small sinking fund for known but irregular costs like car maintenance or travel. A sinking fund is money you set aside monthly for a future purchase, so the expense does not surprise you. As your expenses change, recalculate your target. If your life costs $3,500 a month now, 3 months is $10,500. The math drives the number, not the other way around. Keep the emergency fund on autopilot until it matches your chosen months. After that, only refill after a withdrawal. Everything above that line becomes growth money. Think of it as a spillway. Cash fills the basin to the mark, then it flows into investments automatically. The more automatic this feels, the more consistent you become. And consistency is the engine behind wealth building. Once your cash flow is set, you shift to growth. Investing is how you make your savings work without trading more hours. Start with simple, diversified building blocks. A broad US stock index fund plus a broad international stock index fund covers most public companies at very low cost. If you prefer a one-decision option, A target date index fund can adjust risk for you over time. The idea is to own the market, not outguess it. Risk and return travel together. Stocks swing more in the short term, but tend to pay higher returns over decades. Bonds swing less and pay less. A basic split for a long horizon might tilt mostly stocks, with bonds to smooth the ride. Rebalance about once a year to keep your mix near target. Dollar cost averaging helps most people act. That simply means investing a set amount on a set schedule regardless of headlines. It turns volatility into an ally by buying more shares when prices dip. Here is what that looks like in numbers. Invest $500 a month for 10 years at a 7% annual return, and you end up near $86,000, with $60,000 contributed and about $26,000 of growth. The exact path will wiggle. The long arc is what matters. Place tax-advantaged accounts first. If your employer offers a 401k with a match, capture the match because it is free money with an immediate return. Then look at a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA depending on your tax situation. A taxable brokerage comes next for flexibility. The rule is simple. Fund your cash flow, then automate your growth buys and let time do what time does. A common question after hitting $10,000 is whether to hammer debt or accelerate investing. Use a clear comparison. If your after-tax expected investment return is roughly 6 to 8% over time, any guaranteed interest above that is a strong candidate for payoff. Credit cards at 18% are the loudest example. Paying one down is like earning an 18% risk-free return. That is rare. Student loans at 5 to 7% sit near the line. There, a blended approach can make sense. Pay extra while still investing to capture a 401k match and keep compounding alive. Auto loans at 3 to 5% are usually a lower priority, unless the payment is crushing your cash flow. There is also a behavioral layer. If a specific debt keeps you up at night, clearing it faster can be worth it, even if the spreadsheet prefers a slight investing edge. Sleep is a return too. Use round numbers to feel the stakes. If you owe $5,000 at 18%, that is about $900 a year in interest if you make little progress. Wipe it out, and that cash flow becomes yours to invest. Your credit score benefits as utilization falls, which lowers future borrowing costs. One universal exception stands. Do not skip an employer match while paying down debt, because a 50 to 100% match on contributions is an instant return. The rule of thumb becomes simple. Protect your safety, grab the match, kill high-cost debt, and then feed growth on a schedule you can sustain. Life is not a spreadsheet, so tailor your runway to your reality. If your income is variable, like sales or freelance work, extend your emergency fund to 6 to 12 months of expenses. Your goal is to absorb a slow quarter without panic. If you have dependents, factor in the costs that cannot wait: childcare, insurance, medical needs. For renters, the runway buffers you from sudden moves or lease shifts. For homeowners, it also covers deductibles, repairs, and the time it can take to sell if you had to move. Health events can hit when work is unstable. If you have access to an HSA, you can build a dedicated pool for healthcare, but keep the core emergency fund in cash so a market dip does not collide with a medical bill. Relocation is a classic moment when $10,000 flexes its power. Security deposits, travel, temporarily running 2 rents, interviews, and time off all need cash. With a runway, you choose timing instead of accepting whatever appears. On inflation, accept that price levels move. Anchor your target to months of expenses, not to a fixed dollar forever. Review once or twice a year and adjust. Decision bandwidth is another reason to overshoot the minimum if you are entering a risky season, like launching a business. A thicker runway buys better choices, and better choices pay for themselves. The mental model is simple. Runway equals options. Options equal better odds at good outcomes. Protect the runway first, then use it to step into the next level. After the first $10,000, 3 traps appear. The first is complacency. You feel safe and drift back into casual spending. The fix is a recurring money checkup. Once a month, verify that your emergency fund is intact, your contributions ran, and your debt balances fell. The second trap is excess caution. You leave a growing pile in cash far above your needed runway. Cash is for safety, not for long-term growth. The solution is to define a cash cap tied to months of expenses. When the basin is full, direct the spillover to investments automatically. The third trap is poor deployment. A random purchase or a friend's pitch drains the fund. To prevent that, write a tiny policy for yourself. Define what counts as an emergency, how you will refill the fund, and how you will invest above the line. You do not need paragraphs. A few clear sentences are enough. As your income rises, set a rule for raises. For example, allow yourself a small lifestyle bump and route the rest to savings and investing. That keeps you enjoying progress while compounding accelerates. Keep learning in small bites. 1 hour a month on a book, podcast, or course builds confidence with terms and tools. Confidence reduces decision fatigue. Every quarter, restate your 1-year, 5-year, and 10-year money goals in a sentence each. Short, clear targets guide daily actions. The through line is simple. Safety first, then growth, maintained by systems that remove guesswork. That is how $10,000 becomes the start of a new trajectory, not a one-time win. Let me pull this together into a clear next step. If you have not hit $10,000 yet, set up the autopilot today. Move a set amount the day after each paycheck into a named high-yield savings account. Clear any double-digit APR debt as you go and protect the quick buffer on the way to $10,000. If you have already crossed the mark, define your emergency target in months, cap your cash at that level, and route every extra dollar into low-cost, diversified investments on a schedule you can stick to. The milestone changes your mindset, but the system changes your outcomes. You will feel the difference the first time life throws a curveball and you respond with a plan instead of panic. And you will see the difference when your accounts keep growing without needing more willpower. I like to keep goals visible, so write your current runway in months on a sticky note. Update it after each review. That tiny habit reminds you that this is not about hoarding cash. It is about buying time, choices, and confidence. I am curious where you are on this path. Drop a comment with your runway number today and the next move you will take, whether that is increasing your transfer by $50, opening a Roth IRA, or wiping out one card. If this breakdown helped clarify the path, tap like so more people find it, and subscribe to join the ongoing experiments and evidence-based money playbooks we build here. I will keep bringing models, math, and calm steps you can put to work right away.